What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dr. Professor Dark Joker with this week's video. And this week is going to be an edition of a series I call History in the Bible. Basically, I try to look at some of the potential historical context for the Bible, compare it to, other texts out there to explain, for some of the more confusing things about the Bible, especially regards to, how it relates to, other texts, what the context is, because I believe the Bible is true and inerrant. I just think that there's context we're just not aware of, and so I will go to potentially what some of the context is. Anyway, so as far as specifically what I'm going over, since this week is Christmas, like you know, I believe that I thought a good topic would be going over why Christmas is on December 25th, because there are claims made about that. So I want to go over what the claims are, why it's hard to determine, and how it got determined. Like, go over the actual reasoning why, not just what the History Channel, whatever, claims. So with all that being said, on with the video. First off, let's go over what's known. So there have been claims made that Christians wanted Christmas to replace pagan holidays and that they borrowed some traditions from the pagans. Now, here's the thing with that. Yes. So as far as that goes, so whenever the Nords, like the Vikings, invaded Europe, like the mainland of Europe, and came across some Christians, so there were some traditions that were borrowed, but that wasn't till after the day, the Vikings came in, the Vikings were like in the 8th century to 11th centuries. So basically, so the actual determination of when the of December 25th, that was before the Vikings came in. And some traditions were borrowed from the Vikings, but that was later. And as far as borrows, okay, here's the look. The church was not as corrupt in that time period when it happened compared to compared to later. Like here's the thing, of course you had the Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodox, you had the you had the Great Schism of 1054 between the Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church. Basically where the Bishop of Rome, Bishop of Constantinople excommunicate each other. That's essentially what happened. Basically, and everyone else was choosing sides, and so they so, and there was some corruption at that point, and that was after after the whole determination, and look, there are disagreements but look, as far as pagan holidays, let's be real. The church at that point in time when it was would not have been very willing to borrow stuff from pagans. Like there was not a lot of negotiation back then, comparatively. Like later on, you had some wiggle room given, you know, like not right, but that's just what because a lot there were some positions that became more political positions, arguably than spiritual positions, which is kind of why we had you had the Protestant Reformation later. Anyway, so yeah, so I don't think the whole the pagan claim or the claims about barter that no that has nothing to do with it. Like I guarantee you, whatever problems the church had at that point in time, they would not compromise on the birth of Jesus. Like that is not a compromise that would be made at that point in time. Now, are there maybe some like compromise that maybe the current day church would make in that regard? Yes, but back then, no. That would those that like that compromise would not happen. Like especially when religion was taken a lot more seriously in that time period by like multiple religions, not just Christianity. Yeah, that would not fly. Like and so and also we know everyone knows from the story, Joseph and Mary had to go to Bethlehem for a census due to Joseph being descended from King David. And Joseph, his ancestry traced back to King Solomon, as stated in Matthew 1 verses 1 through 16, the genealogy of Jesus given in the book of Matthew. And Mary is believed to be descended from Prince Nathan, who is Solomon's brother. And the genealogy in Luke 3:23 through 38, is believed to be Mary's genealogy, and which makes some sense. So Jesus was stated to be of the house and line of David. Now, Joseph is not Jesus's biological father. Everyone knew that. So it does make sense for Mary to also be descended from King David, like in that regard. Like that does make sense. It's like, okay, yes, he is part of yes, he is part of the royal family. He's not in it due to like marriage, due to Joseph marrying Mary. It's like biologically Jesus is of the royal family, like David, which that actually leaves some questions. How in the world were they all still alive? Like, I'm surprised Herod let them live, given some of the stuff with him. And that's a whole other issue there that I'm not gonna get into this video. Maybe another one, regards to some of the stuff about Herod's ancestry. And so Elizabeth, who was Mary's relative, was 6 months pregnant with John the Baptist when Jesus was conceived, as explained in Luke 1:5 through 38. So like basically says you know the when the angel Gabriel uh basically approaches Mary, tells her that she's going to conceive the Messiah, you know the Messiah will be born to a virgin. Basically, that Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant at the time, because the book of Luke starts with going over like the conception of John the Baptist. And Zechariah, so John the Baptist's father, was doing temple service during John's conception. Because that's how he received the vision and all that. Was told and went mute for a while. And due to the timing of the census, it is likely that Zechariah was doing that temple service during the spring. And so that helps with the timing of things. And also, so in 525 AD, a monk named Dionysius Exiguus established BC or before Christ and AD Anno Domini, and established Jesus' birth to be 1 AD. So there is no year 0 in BC and AD for whatever reason. It goes straight from 1 BC to 1 AD. So basically, Dionysius stated that Jesus' birth he estimated to be 180. He estimated it like like basically what the calendar we use now is based off his estimation of when Jesus was born. Like that's all it is. It's an estimation because there are reasons why the estimations were made, and that's just how he did. And yeah, and we still use that. Now, yes, you also have, BCE, before Common Era, CE, Common Era, which was done partly to be religiously neutral, and due to the fact there were other estimations made that put Jesus' birth at 6 BC to 4 BC. We don't know exactly when, because there are multiple reasons we don't know, mostly due to record keeping sucking. But yeah, this is just what we know outside of like the how we got to December 25th. Why is the date hard to determine? Well, biggest reason is record keeping wasn't as good back then compared to now. Like that is the reason. So Joseph and Mary, despite them both being descended from King David, they were peasants. Like record keeping was already difficult for nobles and royals. Um, it is way more difficult with peasants because I mean, as far as like a lot of the writers back then who were writing down genealogies, keeping like one of the reasons we have all these genealogies in the Bible is because of how record keeping was so difficult back then compared to now. Like a lot of people complain about genealogies. I mean, I understand, but there is a reason they were written that way because you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have tablets, computers, whatever. They had to write these down by hand to make sure they had family lines written accurately. And for peasants, I mean, guess what? They didn't care about peasants back then. I mean, so peasants, a lot would get genealogies would get lost to the wind because they were peasants. And since and due to record keeping issues, we don't know the exact year of Jesus' birth. That's why I mentioned all the estimations from earlier. Why there's varying ones because we don't know, and these record keeping because his earthly parents were peasants. That did affect it. I mean, hey, I mean that's just how things were. You know, I mean that's just how it was. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons like this is just why we have it's hard to determine the exact date. So we don't have an exact month or and day given in the in the Bible. Like I don't necessarily know how birthdays were done in that time period. If I'm I don't know. Like so yeah, we don't know exactly. That's a question that well, some of that could be a question for Jesus. The day comes. Those of us who go up to heaven. When we meet him. It's a good question to ask. Maybe. Now let's go over how the date was determined. So many early Christians believed that Jesus was conceived during Passover, and so in the 300s, the Annunciation, which is when so that's the name given to the event of Gabriel approaching Mary, telling her about the Messiah. That date was approximated as March 25th. And so basically Mary was conceived that same day, and then basically it's also believed to be the same date as the crucifixion. Good Friday, of course. He resurrected the third day, and then so how they determine when Jesus was born? Basically, they just add 9 months. So 9 months after March 25th is December 25th. That is just basically that's all. That's how they determined it. And so and you had various estimations, disagreements. So a range was given to celebrate what called Christmas Tide. So the Council of Tours in 567 AD determined an estimated range of December 25th through January 5th, which were called the 12 Days of Christmas or 12 Days of Christmas Tides, to hold various festivals celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, some denominations include January 6th as well. Basically, it's like 12, like you have 12 days after January 25th, like December 25th, 12 days after it. And January 6th is also called Epiphany. Basically, it celebrates the baptism of Jesus. And basically, some include that as one of the days of Christmas tide. And so, yeah, but December 25th through January 5th is generally the standard, like 12-day range, across, the denominations. And yes, and basically, December 25th is established as Christmas Day. And you have different festivals on each day. But far as the actual day of Christmas, a lot of people just say December 25th. Like the first day of Christmas is established as Christmas Day. And that's it. Did y'all like this video? Did you dislike this video? Do you agree with the information I gave? Did you disagree with the information? Is there anything I left out? Like, or is there anything I got wrong? Please let me know in the comments. Are there any what other interesting historical events associated with the Bible would you want me to go over next? Put on that in the comments, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and look forward to the next video.